Hello YouTube, my name is Isabella and today I'm going to be doing a spoiler-free review for The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. Basically, the second this book cover dropped, I knew this was going to be a book that I had to read, and very luckily I was approved for an ARC on NetGalley, and here we are. The Unbroken is set to come out March 23rd and is a North African inspired fantasy debut that's also meant to be a trilogy, and it follows two main perspective characters, Terrain and Luca. Terrain was abducted as a child and was basically enslaved and forced to work for her colonizers, and at the beginning of the book she is traveling back to her homeland for the first time, and she basically has to grapple with all of these feelings that come rushing back. Our other character, Lucca, is the crown princess set to be queen, but her uncle is refusing to relinquish the throne to her, so she is determined to make this trip, this voyage, a success, and desperately needs someone to bridge the gap between the colonizers and the native peoples, and she thinks Terrain is the best person to do it. Obviously things don't go to plan, and we get a very in-depth and brutal look at the effects of colonization through a fantasy lens. Just to get down to it, I loved this book. I think this book is so meaningful, so impactful. I know the author drew from their heritage and their experiences, and I think this book was pretty brilliant. I'm so impressed that this is a debut. Usually when doing my reviews, I start off discussing world building and kind of work my way through it, but I'm actually going to discuss themes and writing first, because the themes and writing inform every aspect of the storytelling so beautifully and so just masterfully that I think we have to start here. As I mentioned before, this is a great example of showcasing real world things like colonization and putting it through like the fantasy treatment, and we get to explore so many different things in a different world, but it has such commentary surrounding and regarding colonization that I just think was great. I don't want to say that this book was a great reading experience or fantastic, because it's brutal, it's upsetting, but the journey that we are taken on and all of C.L. Clarke's commentary throughout the book definitely makes this a worthwhile read. I loved how the world, which is sort of an obvious example, but the characters and the plot all display such nuances of colonization. And I'm not talking about how the colonizers are good, but like how much hurt is perpetuated through colonization, and like all of this stuff I thought was just so phenomenally done. I really liked C.L. Clarke's prose, although I had a couple nitpicks in regards to certain scenes. Sometimes I found a certain scene just unclear as what was going on, and though later on it gets revealed, and certain scenes were like I think purposely left unclear, it left me really confused in the moment, and I don't know exactly if it was paid off in the way that if the scenes were a bit clearer. Now, to go to world building, I also really love this world and this setting. I think C.L. Clarke does a great job managing stuff and establishing the world well as the reader. For the first time we're introduced to this world, but also sets up for more to come. But we have a great enough understanding of what's going on point blank, and the setting itself, the world that we are in, I loved C.L. Clarke's descriptions of this place. I found it very easily to visualize, and the setting was just really cool. I love that there are different customs and stuff displayed throughout. Queerness itself is perfectly normal. A lot of people are queer, and all our main characters are queer, and that's great. I also was a huge fan of the involvement of magic in here. Usually magic is used in different ways, and while magic has a purpose in here, it also really drives the plot forward in an interesting way through the colonizers' wish to corrupt and take the magic that the natives have. And I just loved the exploration behind the magic and how much meaning was put into the story as a whole that I thought was pretty damn cool. The characters definitely were my favorite part of the story, and especially them together interacting. Basically, every single character has a very complex relationship with the other, and in so many different ways that it just made me like die for all of these interactions. There was so much meat and like substance to them that I just couldn't get enough. Luca and Terrain on their own are very interesting dynamic characters. Them together was such a unique pair. I really like the fact they found themselves drawn to one another and sort of maybe start to develop something, but that development is not going to stop them from attempting to achieve their goals. Having them want to sort of be together, but then be at odds at times, and the way they had to navigate that was so good. I loved all their interactions. I can't wait to read more of their interactions. Terrain especially, and her arc, really learning and discovering what she had lost, was heartbreaking, but I think fantastically explored. I loved her character progression and learning and changing her goals and motivations throughout, and watching that shift and that like switch flick was so cool, so great, and I can't wait to see where their respective stories go. I also really enjoyed the plot, but I did have a couple of like nitpicks surrounding it. This is definitely slow to start, and it features the characters, which I loved. Anything featuring their interactions was great, but I do think there are some pacing issues. We kind of get stop, start, and I would have liked a more gradual shift and climb. I loved all the political tension and navigating. I did think some of the action scenes could occasionally just slightly be unclear. I kind of found myself lost at times when like things were going down, and then eventually I picked it up. I think it did display the fact that this is a debut a little bit, and I look forward to see how things maybe change in the future. We'll see. I really love this book. I have now pre-ordered it. I love the balance of it being speculative, but then also having so much real world commentary. That's my bread and butter with fantasy. That's something I love so much, and I think it's definitely worth your time. I ended up giving this 4.5 out of 5 stars. Couldn't quite give it the 5, but like it definitely is a standout. It's one I think about still, and I read it a couple weeks ago now. Let me know down in the comments below if you plan on checking out The Unbroken, or if you've read it. Please let me know your thoughts. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.